We are having a bit of a heat wave here in the UK and you will not hear any complaints out of me. While I'm taking a little break from working outside, because it is fudging hot, I thought it was time to get some seeds sown. Now, things I've already sown within the last week include a bunch of brassicas, which I'm going to finish the set today for the things I haven't done yet. So I'll go through all of those once I start. I'm also going to start some more Welsh onions to get my box of seeds out because I've already forgotten. So I've got some beetroot. I did recently sow a batch of beetroot, but I bring them out whenever I'm doing one of these because if in doubt, sow more beetroot. Mostly because it grows really well here, it's easy. They can go straight from these modules outside. I don't tend to direct sow, but I do these tiny little cell trays and then they go straight out, so they don't need potting up. And they also just store in the ground here really well. So it's not one of those things that's time sensitive. I can just put them in and go grab one when I want one. So if in doubt, I always pop a few extra beetroot in because we love them. Right, and here I've got some lettuce. Now I've had a bit of a palaver with my lettuce this year in that they're just not germinating. And I've had that with a few things. I don't think it's the seeds fault, I think it's the way I've stored my seeds. So what I'm gonna do is bung all of these in and they're gonna live or die. And that way, if they germinate, great, I'll just use it as a cut and come again patch. If they don't, then I'm out of lettuce seed and I'll have to get some more. What a shame. Then I've got some Welsh onions. I need to do some overwintering onions, but I don't have any seeds at the moment. I did save some last year and I don't know what I've done with them, so I need to have a little hunt, and if I can't find them, I'll have to order some. But otherwise, these are Welsh onions, which are the only allium seed that I've really got suitable for being sown now. So these will provide us with sort of green onions, spring onion style onion throughout. I do have a load of these already, but I like to start some more by seed at this time of year, just because I just keep expanding the patch. Right, then I've got my brassicas in there, which I say we'll come back to, and I've got these dwarf green beans at the Prince. I've not had very good luck with these this year. I don't think I will want to grow them again next year, purely just because they've not been very reliable. I'm sure they're perfectly good, they're just not suited here. I had medium germination on these earlier in the summer and the slugs just loved them, so I'm not sure. So I thought maybe what I'll do is just pop these in and see what comes of it at this point. But that way, again, I'm using them, the packet can be empty, I can throw it away and I can move on to something else for next year. And then the last thing in here is some thyme. And again, this is similar to my lettuce seed. I've not had great luck with the germination on these when I'm just trying to start one seed at a time in trays like this. So I'm just gonna bung the rest of this packet into a pot and see what comes out. And if anything, then great, I'll separate them and grow them on. But if not, this pack is done, end of the thyme game. I do have a few established thyme plants out on the land, so it's not like I need it. I just don't want to keep these seeds forever for no reason. And I'm all for having extra thyme plants. I did buy these in 2021, so they're not new seed. Most of my seeds are not new seeds. I'm buying sort of 5 to 10 packs of seeds a year now, when you consider that I've got old packs, because you get so many seeds. There's 1,300 seeds in this beetroot packet, so you get so many, and we're only 2 people, and I'm saving seeds of open pollinated varieties now, so I don't need loads, and I'm ending up with sort of a bit of a collection that I think I'm never going to end up sowing. So I've kind of just hit the point this year where I'm just throw them in and they'll live or die, and we use them or we lose them. Right, so let's talk brassicas. The ones I've already sowed are some early cabbage varieties. I'll have to put the name on it because I don't remember off the top of my head, that are going to overwinter. So these are all for overwintering, not expecting to eat them over the winter itself. I'm just going to sow them now, let them get established with what we've got left of the season, then they pick up really early in the spring, and then we have a nice early crop of brassicas. I did this last year in the polytunnel and we had a great harvest of cauliflower, kale and broccoli. So I want to do the same again this year, and I want to expand it to some Brussels sprouts and some cabbage. So as I say, I've already started the cabbage, I've started the cauliflower and I've started the kale. So what I need to do is make sure I get some Brussels sprouts and some broccoli in. I've got lots of seeds, so I'm just going to go and work out which ones to do. I'm not going to sow any more of this broccoletto. I I really did try. I've given it 4 or 5 goes and they just go straight to seed for me, like before there was any kind of plant, no matter what I seem to do with them. I think the odds of it working at this time of year where it's really hot, I'm not hopeful, so I think I'm going to abandon those. It says sow by August 2025, so if anyone in the UK wants to take these off my hands, put me a comment or a message or something and I'll send them to you. Right, I also did kohlrabi in the polytunnel last year. Now they did all go to seed, so I think I would like to try this again. I just won't put them in the tunnel, I'll put them outside. I have reclaimed my brassica cage outside recently, and so I can do a lot more of the brassicas. And the things that didn't do great in the tunnel, the kohlrabi and the Brussels sprouts. I did try Brussels sprouts last year in the tunnel, but they did not like it. They just really stunted, and they went kind of mouldy. I don't know if that's the right word. I'm going to try the kohlrabi and the Brussels sprouts in my tunnel, so I'm going to get some more of them on the go. Now I think the best luck I've had with broccoli so far here in North Wales is this Desiccio broccoli variety, but I also have some sprouting broccoli, again really old seeds, bought them in 2020, and I'm going to get those in just because it's use them or lose them situation. So that's a broccoli purple sprouting late, a broccoli summer purple, and a broccoli purple sprouting early. I've not got loads of those, but I'm going to bung all of them in and see what comes of it, because as I say, the seeds are old and they can go out in the brassica cage, and we'll see how they do. I'm sweating. I'm going to start with the lettuce just because that feels like the easiest win. In this pot. As I say, these will either come up or they won't. Even if the seed isn't great, but there's still some viability, then something will come up in here, and then I'll know that it's worth keeping the rest of this pack. And if not, then I'll just ditch this, because there's no point keeping it if the seeds are dead. So then I'll just put a light sprinkle in of compost over these seeds, just quite a shallow layer, and then I'll just pat it down and then give this a little water in once we're done with everything else. Right, and this little one, I think I'm going to do the same, but with those thyme seeds. So squash this down, and then I'll go ahead and sprinkle a very, very liberal layer of thyme in this pot. I'm only doing these that thickly because I'm pretty confident that these seeds are either dead or nearly dead. Let's move on to my brassicas. Now again, because these broccoli seeds were bought in 2020, I am going to plant them all. That being said, I'm not going to do them as densely as I did these, not because I'm any more confident in them, I'm not really, just because if they do come up I don't want to then kill them by trying to separate them. So I'm going to probably just put 2 or 3 per cell and see how we go with that. Brassicas germinate quite quickly, so we'll know pretty soon whether or not they've come to anything, and if they haven't, well then I can just plant something else in these trays without losing too much time. The way I see it is that if any of these other varieties of broccoli come up, then that's just a bonus, because while this Desiccio variety does very well for me, I'm obviously not staggering my harvest if I'm only using one variety and planting them all at the same time. I like the idea of having a few different varieties of broccoli, especially with some of them being Calabrese and some of them being sprouting broccolis, because that way draw out the harvest a bit more. Now obviously I could do a succession sow, but I tend to find it just doesn't really work like that. It's not like you plant it 2 weeks later and you'll get your broccoli 2 weeks later. I wish that were true, but a lot of the time you end up with them just all at the same time anyway. They tend to catch up. But, see, I've lost that one. These purple sprouting broccolis are not meant to be sown now, just for the record. I'm not recommending that you start your purple sprouting broccoli seeds now. They probably should have gone in the late spring for me. So the timings are going to be all off with these, even if they do germinate. But I'm really just trying to have a bit of a seed clear out. I've got so many old packs that maybe didn't work well for me once upon a time, but I've moved. You know, I've got the polytunnel now, I've got the brassica cage now. When I first bought these seeds, I still lived in the city and I was growing in pots, and you know, it's quite hard to grow a purple sprouting broccoli in a pot. They're big plants, they want quite a lot of space. That could be why I didn't have as much luck with them as I might have wanted, which might be why I've still got seeds left. I honestly just don't really remember, but I kind of figure these seeds are so old, I kind of just want to get them in. If I get something out of them, great, but I don't feel like I'm just throwing them away, if you see what I mean. That being said, these Dicecios I did sow this time last year. I did overwinter in the polytunnel and they did produce really well, so I'm happy to be seen doing this. I have the evidence that this one works. These purple sprouting broccoli, not so much. All things considered, we do have a good climate for growing brassicas. It's not very hot most of the time. You know, it's damp. We do get a winter, but it's quite mild, so they don't have to sustain anything too harsh. It's a good use of overwintering garden space here. I find it interesting how some of the brassicas do well in the tunnel and some of them do well outside over winter, not in the summer. I don't have any brassicas in there over the summer. I've really struggled to grow cauliflower outside here. I'm trying to overwinter it. It's so wet. The slugs just really grateful for the brassica leaves out there. They really just don't last long, and we get quite harsh storms here with regards to like wind speed, and that's quite a lot for a plant to deal with. Whereas I grew Brussels sprouts outside over the winter here and they did great. I've grown cabbages outside over the winter here and they've done okay. The broccoli and the cauliflower seem to much prefer it in the tunnel, whereas the Brussels sprouts didn't do well in the tunnel. So I think it's one of those where you just got to give it a bit of a go, see what works best for you, and that is what I'm doing. Okay, so that's all my broccoli. Now I'm going to start a line of these kohlrabi. They are purple Vienna. Now they didn't really appreciate the tunnel. They stood very well over the winter in there as small but established plants, and then as soon as spring hit, they all just bolted. So this year I'm going to try these in the brassica cage over winter, or netted outside if I run out of space in the brassica cage. I do have some of those cloche net things. Yeah, so fingers crossed they can withstand our Welsh winters, and we'll get that harvest. We'll see. Then I'm going to do this full tray. It's only a little one with these Welsh onions. As I say, I do already have some pretty well established patches of Welsh onions, but they are all down in my food forest, and while I like them down there, I'm kind of hesitant to pull them up. I like the role that they play there. I have them planted around my soft fruits. I kind of just want to leave those patches alone for a few years and just let them propagate, let them grow, and just pull very sparingly off them. They do make nice spring onions and they bring a lot of pollinators in when they do go to flower. Same with most allium flowers, I find that the bees do really love them, so I would like to have a patch in my veggie garden and not just down in the food forest, so that is what these ones are for. If you are unfamiliar with Welsh onions, they are sadly not Welsh. They do very well here. They are a perennial onion. They don't bulb so much, they really just stay like a spring onion. They kind of form clumps, so you can either use them like a spring onion and just pull off a bit of the clump and leave the rest in there and then it will fill back out, or you can snip the leaves and use them like chives, and they are perennial here in the UK, so they're a really cool option to sort of always have oniony something available to use in the kitchen. Alrighty, there we go. But now that is enough of an inside break, and I think it's time to go outside and find something to do out there.
So I've been harvesting off of this monster runner bean plant every few days or so, just enough for a meal for the two of us, and I've fallen behind, so it was about time to do a proper harvest and bring in all of the beans that were still on it.
The tunnel is definitely not the place to be if you're trying to cool down on a hot day. A job I am going to do now before I go and hide from the sun for a bit is I've got some leek plants that have been in pots since the spring, and I'm going to get them in to my in-ground bed behind me before the summer is over.
These leeks were started back in the early spring in seed trays that I've then potted up into these little pots where they've sat for most of the year so far. So I thought it was about time that I got them into the ground. They'll just sit here in overwinter, and I'll probably start harvesting from them early in the new year.
That's a nice little job done. That's pretty much what it's going to be like while it's this hot. You know, I'll do a bit here and there outside and keep myself busy with all the inside jobs. We don't get a lot of heat waves, so I'm just going to also try to enjoy it while it lasts. We've got family here, so we'll probably go to the beach or something like that and make the most out of having some nice weather. Hope it's nice where you are too.